Hello and welcome to the podcast Life as a show intently focused on exploring and unearthing the details of professions and the people behind them. I'm your host, Christopher Schoenwald. Did you know that family businesses comprise 90% of all business enterprises in North America? Or how about this? The majority of the world's wealth is created by family-owned enterprise. Estimates suggest that such businesses contribute between 70 to 90% of the world GDP. Chances are either you are working in a family business or know those who do. On today's show, we're going to explore life in a family-run business through a conversation with an insightful guest who provides a breadth of view on some of the challenges of being a second-generation worker in a family biz. We'll hear about what that really means as far as its impact on life and living. Khorram is a man with many interests. By day, he runs a family-owned construction company that specializes in roofing and below-grade waterproofing for medium to large and mixed residential and retail towers. However, the rest of the time, you can find him doing anything from mountain biking on the North Shore Mountains in Vancouver, Canada, or in his backyard roasting specialty coffee beans from Indonesia. Born to immigrant parents from Iran who fled the country due to religious persecution after the 1979 Iranian Revolution, Anis has always wondered what it means to be part of a community. This led him to become involved in some of the community building socioeconomic activities of the Baha'i faith, the same religion his family was persecuted for. One particular activity he was drawn to was the Junior Youth Empowerment Program, a program open to all, regardless of their background, that empowers teenagers between the ages of 11 to 14 to serve their communities. After serving as a coordinator of the program in Vancouver for several years, him and his wife lived in Japan from 2014 to 2017 to help implement and develop the program there. In 2018, Anis transitioned back to Vancouver to help with the family business. Like many family-run businesses, succession plans, murky or clear, are always lurking for second-generation sons and daughters. According to a 2021 PwC survey, 40% of U.S. family businesses say they want to see their next generation's increasing involvement in decision-making and management, while globally, 24% of family businesses are focused on next-gen involvement. No matter how you cut it, a quarter to a half of family businesses want their family in on the biz. This fact can elicit a myriad of emotions, and it's exactly what we'll explore in today's episode. Anis, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Great seeing you after many years.
Anis and I go back to his time in Japan. So yeah, it's great to have you on. I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your insights on this.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
All right. Well, why don't we get right into it? The first segment is something called Coloring Wikipedia. And this is a segment which we try to add some deeper levels of analysis and insight to kind of simple explanations of particular professions. Now, your specific role within your family's construction business is that of a site manager. And let's see what Wikipedia gives us pertaining to this job. All right. So site supervisor, I'm going to read it off for you, and I'd love to hear your comments. So here we go.
Sounds good.
Site supervisor. Also known as construction site supervisors monitor the progress of construction projects and ensure compliance with construction safety regulations. They supervise construction workers and subcontractors, educate construction workers on site safety practices, and evaluate employee performance. All right, there you go, Anis. What do you think?
So since I'm running a small business with my father, and it's in construction, that kind of applies to some of the things I do. But as we spoke before, I'm wearing many hats. So one day, or like for a part of the day, I might be a site supervisor doing tasks related to what you just described regarding safety, training, implementation of, different procedures or safety practices. And then like the next minute, I'll be more of a site foreman where I'm actually supervising the work and, doing quality control, safety documents, filling out, QC checklists, that kind of thing. And then the next minute I'll be running to a supplier and grabbing material, like all within a couple hours. So it's a smaller company. We have like at any given time, maybe 5 or 6 employees. So, it's gonna require the business owner to do many things. I'm also involved in some of the accounting and some of the back end things, as well as a bit of marketing, that kind of thing. So I'm doing many things.
Did you have to? Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, a man of many, wearing many hats there. Did you have to kind of brush up on certain skills or like flat out study for some of these things when you started working, or was it just kind of like you picked it up along the way?
I mean, my dad's been running the company for the past 25 years, but things really amped up maybe about 10 years ago. And how that happened was our cousins, they own a very large envelopment company. So envelopment is anything to do with like the exterior of the building, separating the outside world to the interior of the building. That's all envelopments, anything from the parkade all the way to the roof. So they're like a huge multi-million-dollar company, and they needed someone to get into the below grade aspect of things. So my dad got involved with that about 10 years ago. So we have a very close relationship with them. They subcontract a lot of our work. And I came in right as that, kind of right when that started peaking. So it's kind of really good timing for my dad because he needed a lot of help. And obviously with his knowledge over the past 25 years, he knew a lot of the things, and I just kind of got into it. At first I was on site doing a lot of the work, and over the years I kind of picked up other things, added my own thoughts and insights into how the business should be run, and we kind of work together on that. I did take a few courses at a technical school for kind of understanding the basic principles of building envelopment, but besides that, a lot of it has just been kind of figuring it out as I go.
Yeah, it must be interesting in that sense. Again, kind of coming back to this, family run business sort of angle of it all. One, from the support side of your father, I guess, being able to help you and guide you along and, fill in some of the gaps of knowledge and whatnot. But then also, like, on the flip side, maybe some of the challenges of that also, some of the stresses and pressures. And that's something, of course, we're going to get into a little bit more, but yeah, it's quite interesting. I guess in the spirit of things right now, maybe we can kind of flip into a different segment here where we can dive into, a few more of those issues. So in terms of that next segment, it's a Q&A discovery, and I'm just going to fire off some questions to you, and we can explore some additional ideas. So I'd like to start off this one again on this intersection between the personal and professional. And your present work in the family business is clearly different than your past activities. And quite frankly, life when you were involved in youth empowerment programs. And if you can, maybe take us back to when you decided to transition to the family business. I mean, what was that like?
Sure. Yeah. So, this was in 2018. My wife and I were living in Japan for about 3.5, 4 years. But there was a family illness. My mom got quite sick. She had cancer. Back to Canada to help out with the family and support in any way I can. So that was really good in the sense that my dad really needed help with the company, and it allowed us both the flexibility to support my mom, who unfortunately passed away last January. That's kind of what motivated me to come back. So it wasn't really like it was a decision. Obviously, I didn't have to get involved with the family business, but it just made sense at the time.
Yeah, well, it must have been incredibly challenging, obviously, for what you just outlined, but also what it represented to you in your life, I guess, in what you were doing. Living in a foreign country, living in Japan, having a life established there, doing different things, and then basically that entire world being turned upside down. And the transition itself, for all those reasons, of course, makes sense, but it must have been,
Yeah, it had like, there were definitely times that were a lot more intense, obviously, like, like any kind of thing, like, when you're dealing with illness and these extreme life circumstances, there's moments where it's very, very intense. So, when you first find out, when you go in for doctor's appointments, and then near the end, obviously the last few months were quite bad. But generally over the past 3-4 years, like, things were pretty steady, and you just have to live your life. You can't just constantly be thinking about it. And but yeah, it was a very, to your point, it was a very, very intense and stressful time at one point.
That type of experience for anyone is, yeah, like you said, it's these life moments that are challenging, regardless of where you are and what you're doing. But I guess you had that additional layer of moving your entire life across the world and restarting it essentially, and like that unto itself, I think I've just, it's hard to fathom. It must have been quite difficult, but
right, yeah, I think my wife and I don't have kids yet, so it was a little bit easier in that sense. But yeah, just kind of dropping my work, moving out of our place, just flying across the ocean, like on a moment's notice. Yeah, it was quite a change for sure.
Well, now I guess having been part of the business for a few years now, how has it been? What is it like to play such an active role?
It's definitely been a great learning experience. My background in, at least my educational background's in sociology and communication, so absolutely nothing to do with business or construction or anything. So everything was almost completely new. I did help my dad out a bit here and there when I was younger.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think anyone with a sociology degree ever works anything close to what that degree is all about. It always seems like the people I've met, at least, always seem to, I've got a sociology degree and they're doing something completely right, exactly. Unrelated. It always seems to be the case. But
I enjoyed my education, but yeah, like you said, often people move on to something else. But yeah, the last few years have been really good in the sense that I learned a bit about how to run a business. I learned a lot about construction, which is like the bread and butter of Vancouver's economy. Working with my dad, that relationship has I shouldn't say taken a turn. I don't want to frame this in a negative way, because everything should just be taken as learning or whatever, like ways to improve. But yeah, like my dad and me and my dad's relationship has definitely been affected to some extent because of our we're business partners in a sense. Yeah, I don't. I want to be careful with my choice of words. Like, we're definitely, like, it's not that our relationship has gone down. It's just that we're always talking about work. You're all like over the dinner table, you're talking about work. When you first wake up and you see each other, you're talking about work. So your relationship becomes all work, and it's very easy to forget that this is my dad, or from his, it's a relationship, and we have a loving relationship together, and that can often take a backseat. So I think we spoke a little bit before, messaging back and forth, that that's not the primary reason, but one of the motivating factors that I'm considering now transitioning out of the business. And it kind of I kind of got into it because of my mom's illness. I came back, it just made sense to get involved. And me and my dad both said we'd give it a shot, see how it goes. And if I'd want to take over long-term, I can. And then once my mom passed, it kind of feels natural. And I don't really see myself doing this long-term to maybe transition to something else. Yeah. But yeah, the work itself, it's not glamorous at all. It's like you're dealing with very, sorry for the noise, there's doing renovations upstairs. Yeah, a lot of it is you're, in the whole, like, working in all weather conditions, dealing with employees who don't show up in the morning, like just send you a text saying I can't show up. So a lot of the stress and work ends up on your shoulders. You can't tell the general contractor of the site that, oh, sorry, my guys didn't show up, I'll come back tomorrow. It's like, hundreds of thousands of dollars are at stake every day for them, and the work has to proceed. So it can be very, very stressful at times. It's kind of, one of the benefits is that there'll be like a month or two where it works quite slow or kind of steady, and I'll have quite a bit of flexibility. But then there'll be like a period of like 2-3 months where it's just like full on and craziness, and you don't, you need 10 guys, but you only have 4 guys, that kind of thing. So it's like a very, it's like a roller coaster ride at sometimes. A lot of it just like troubleshooting, like solving problems on the spot, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. I guess maybe you kind of mentioned the relationship between you and your father and how that's kind of been affected to a degree. I'm curious if we could kind of flip the script here a little bit and look at how he interprets the relationship perhaps, or what he thinks about your experience or your involvement now since joining.
Yeah, he's always been yeah, he's always been very informal about it. He's like from the beginning, he's like, okay, if you're interested, you can take over and kind of whatever I put into it, I'll get out of it kind of thing. And then as he's like 67 now, so he's considering his retirement. I don't think he'll ever fully retire. He probably won't do any of these like huge projects that we've been doing over the past 4 or 5 years. He'll probably move back to what he used to do, like small residential, commercial stuff until he decides to move on to something else. But yeah, so a lot of it is kind of up to me. Like if I want to continue, I can continue with it and keep taking on these larger projects. But if not, no hard feelings kind of thing.
That's quite helpful, I would imagine. I couldn't envision that being maybe the type of relationship that a lot of others maybe who are involved in family businesses might have. There might be that pressure, whether it's spoken or otherwise, that no, like this business is your responsibility. I'm, as a current owner, I'm aging. Somebody's got to take it over. Somebody needs to do this. And at least it sounds like in your case, there is that flexibility there and allowance for you to pursue other things, I guess.
Yeah, my dad's kind of very easygoing in that sense. Like he doesn't want to put any undue pressure on me and that kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we can transition to another segment here. And this is called Water Cooler Story. And basically, I just kind of invite the guests to indulge the listeners with a personal story relating to the job. And it can be about anything, whatever you think is worth sharing. So, Anis, what do you have for us?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stories from like huge fires, people injuring themselves. Luckily, nothing too extreme. Injuries, huge accidents, all that kind of stuff happens on a daily basis, like cranes dropping like thousands of pounds just like 20 feet away from you. It's construction is notorious for being relatively dangerous. There's very few deaths, and Canada has very high safety standards, but the nature of the work, it's relatively dangerous, obviously, outside doing heavy manual work, that kind of thing. So people know that, so I won't tell a story about that. I'll tell another kind of fun story. So at least for a small company, even big companies, but I think more so for small companies, it's always hard to find good employees, reliable employees. And unfortunately for construction, it often attracts a certain personality. So a lot of the group of guys we have right now are great. Like they've been with us for 3-4 years. They're relatively good. But in the past, we've had some shady characters, people with, addictions, huge debts, that kind of thing, always short on cash. So one particular gentleman, he was always short on cash. Every other day he was asking for, $50, $100, and whatever he was using it on, we don't really, that's their lives. We help them out in whatever way we can. I think this 2 or 3 months when I first started with the company, I usually left my wallet in the car, but kind of hidden, so nobody else who didn't know I left it in there would know. And then I think I'd left the car door unlocked, or someone else had the key or something. And at the end of the day, I noticed my wallet's missing. I'm like, well, I guess somebody broke into the car, left it unlocked, and just grabbed it. I didn't even question that it might be one of our employees, because, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, kind of thing. And then, so me and this other gentleman, we were working in the backyard of my house. We have some of our equipment stored there, and I had to go somewhere, and I left him alone. I'm like, okay, just finish up and head home. I made sure the doors are locked, everything was good to go, and I leave, and I come back a couple hours later, and I notice my wallet that had been stolen 2 months later is under my bed. I'm not joking. So it's my wallet that's been stolen. It's under my bed. All the money's gone. He's there, and I had stored my house keys, which was kind of stupid in retrospect. I stored my house keys in my wallet at the time. I don't do it anymore. That was missing too. I'm like, oh my God. So it was this guy, he broke into the house. He left the wallet because he felt guilty or something. To this day, we have no clue. And I called my dad right away, and he was in Hawaii at the time. And he's like, change the lock and do all the necessary things you need to do. And when they came back home a few days later, they noticed like my mom's jewelry was missing, they had a couple $1,000s of cash stashed around the house that was missing. He found it. So anyways, my dad calls, it's him, obviously. My dad called, obviously, we're not calling him to come to work, and he's obviously getting desperate. He finally admits it. But obviously I think he returns the jewelry, but doesn't have any of the cash, spent it all. He probably tried to pawn off the jewelry, but couldn't. So anyways, that was an extreme case, but that kind of stuff happens kind of often.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I guess within any professions you have episodes, especially when you're in management or ownership positions, like the employees and who you're bringing in, who you're working with, it can present a certain set of challenges, and would imagine maybe something within construction, it could be more transient and people coming in and out. But yeah, that must have been quite an unsettling experience.
Yeah. And being a small business, and we run the company out of our house, like we have a fairly large garage and we do a lot of things at home. People, our employees know where we live, so that's like the mixing of the personal and the business is constantly happening.
Okay, well, we're heading into the last segment here, Anis, and this is something called Crystal Ball segment, and it's kind of, as the title suggests, we're looking towards the future a little bit here. And you kind of mentioned this already in the interview, but I'd be curious to hear a little bit more in terms of where you see yourself going with this.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of uncertainty in terms of my future with the business. Actually, no, in terms of working with the business, I kind of decided about a year ago that I'd wrap up because some of our projects take years to complete. Once I wrap up some of these larger projects, and I've had a conversation with my dad about it already, or several conversations, that I would begin to think about transitioning out, making sure he's okay, he knows what he's doing, and we tie up all our loose ends. But it'd be a shame to kind of lose all this experience, or not use all this experience and knowledge that I've gained over the past 4 years into something else. So I'm still I'm considering a few things related to construction, at least. One is, there's a friend of mine. He's also into development and construction. He's in Mexico at least, but he's done some things in Vancouver as well. We're thinking of going in on a few small properties and, giving older properties, giving them a bit of a facelift and flipping them. Housing market is extremely hot right now. It has been for the past 10 years, but it just seems like there's no end to it. So it seems kind of like a good idea. And luckily, I've been working with the business, and my dad's been, very fair with his compensation. So I've been able to save up quite a bit, and living at home as well has helped. So, savings are there to do something with that. So that's one of the ideas I have. I might, after I kind of transition out, I might take a few months off and travel a bit and visit my sister, maybe come to Japan or something and see my in-laws. But then after that, try to make something out of it. That's kind of maybe I see myself trying it out for the next 5 years and seeing how that goes. Yeah.
Well, like you said, I mean, building up that wealth of experience, and not only the experience, I suppose, but some of the contacts too, and then leveraging what your father has within the industry too. All of those things kind of coming together would present some unique opportunities, such as you just outlined. So yeah, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
All right, Anis. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I really do thank you for joining the show today.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was great seeing you.
All right. Well, if you like today's show, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you access your podcasts. And don't forget to join us for the next episode of Life as where we'll continue to explore and unearth the details of professions and the people behind them. I'm Christopher Schoenwald, your host, and until next time, stay curious about life and living.